Welcome to Papa's Workshop. Recently, a company by the name of Made the Best reached out to me and asked if I would review their laser engraver. Now, this is a DEWALLIE 20-watt laser, and I want to be able to open up the box today, put it all together, and do a couple of test engraves. So let's get started. When you open up the DEWALLIE laser, you're going to find that it is packaged very nice, very neat. And of course, this is very common with being able to get the laser engravers. Now here's the user manual. You do have a variety of languages, and yes, of course, I'm going to be using the English version. In this same package, you have some brown paper that you can use to do some test engraves. Next, let's grab the laser itself. And don't forget, this is a 20-watt laser. This laser does have the red shield that attaches, and the nice thing, it has magnets where it just slips right on and you can take it off easily. I actually like this feature a lot. Now next we have a metal plate that you can put down underneath your engravings, and that just helps to protect your workbench. Now moving right along, we do have the power cord, and in addition to that, here's the power adapter that we're going to need for this laser. Now next we have the USB cable, and in this little compartment too we have all of the various parts and screws, nuts, bolts, everything that we need to be able to put this laser together. In addition to that, down there at the bottom we have the controller itself. Now that little blue square, that's important. Don't lose that. We'll get to it later. Next, let's take a look at the gantry. This knob on top controls the Z-axis. It is stiff. A lot harder to turn than I would expect, so that I don't like. But as far as the rest of this, it is completely pre-assembled. The stepper motor's in place, the belts are on, everything else is pre-assembled. So that part is actually nice. Next we have the glasses. Please remember, wear the glasses. In addition, we got a couple of pieces of plywood. They're pretty warped, but we can use those to test some engraving. Now we do have a cloth and the little felt pad to be able to clean the lens on the laser periodically, and now we have the rest of the metal components to be able to assemble. So this is the X-axis as well as the Y1 and the Y2 axis. So we're going to go ahead and get ready now to start putting this together. Now I want to get everything out of this box. Here's the control board, and I want to be able to show you that's the USB, the power, and of course the off and on. Now there's not a way to be able to add the air assist on this. Now these are the little red feet that goes on it, and then I have some little dog tags that we can test out. And we've got down at the very bottom, we've got some another dog tag, and we've got some little aluminum sheets that we can test. So now that I have the box empty, let's get it out of the way and start the assembly. Now in this instruction manual to be able to put it together, it's actually written in a number of the different languages, and of course I'm going to be using the English. So I'm going to turn it to this page, and we're going to start the assembly process. Right here it says step 1, and we need this package. And it also tells what components that we need for the X and the Y axis. So there are the 5 packages. One for each of the steps to be able to go through. We also need our axis here. And we're going to go ahead and get that set up as well. So we're going to be using the package labeled step 1 right here. And what's in this package is the M5 by 20. And there are 4 of them in this package. Now it's important to be able to get this oriented correctly, because this scale is on each of them, and this scale should be facing the outside, and you can see how this is pre-bored, and these screws will be able to slip right into here. If you do this wrong and you have this flipped over, it's not going to go in there. So you have to get this oriented correctly to be able to work. So I'm going to put this in, and this already has the holes pre-drilled right here. So they're just going to be able to screw right into place. I'm just going to take this right up like this. I like the fact that it is pre-drilled and tapped for the threads, so it makes assembly very nice and easy. I know some companies out there have it where they are using the T-nuts and the screws, but I actually like this method quite well. Now I find that it helps to actually set this on the table and then just hold that in place, and then that will just slip right in. All right, so step one is completed. So now we're going to move to step two. Now in step two, the screws are exactly the same. This is the M520, and there's 4 of them. I bet you know what we're going to do with those. We're going to put the front bar on, but we also have to put the gantry in too. So I'm just going to set this right there on the table, and I'm going to just flip this right into position. And that just slides in real easy, just like that. And then I can come back with the front piece, and we can put that in position, just like this. And same thing, we're going to use these 4 screws, 2 on each side, to be able to secure it into place. Now before I went any further, I did check to make sure that everything was square, and it was. And that's another advantage of having everything pre-drilled like this, because it makes having this machine square much easier. Now once all 4 of these screws are tightened, it's time to move to step 3. So now we're moving to step 3, and this has the M516s, and there are 8 of them. And this time we're going to be attaching the feet. So this is the feet that we're going to be putting onto this, and it already has these little rubber feet on here, and that helps to be able to keep it from sliding. Now these holes are already drilled and tapped, so that makes it very, very easy to be able to attach the feet to this laser engraver. Now as you attach the feet, do yourself one big favor. Do not completely tighten these. Just put them on snug, because right now we're attaching the 2 screws that are right here on the x-axis. But we've got a 3rd screw that we need to attach in just a moment once we get ready to add the belts. So just leave this loose right now. The other thing I want to do is just go ahead and realize that the control panel itself is actually a foot as well, and that's going to go up front. Now I'm going to go ahead and put all 4 feet on. Okay, we now have the feet on. We have the frame all done, and it's sitting nice and square on the table. So we're looking good. The gantry is on. So now we need to go to step 4, and step 4 is to be able to install the belts. Now there's a little slot right here that this belt will slide through. Now when you slide this belt through this hole, make sure that the teeth are facing down. That's very important. And just lift this belt up like this, and then we can just slip it through. So we're going to go ahead and just slip the belt right in there. Slide that right on down. And we get to the wheel. Just be able to raise it up. Grab it like that. Pull it right up and over, and we'll slide it back down. Then down at this end, we'll just take it and slide it back through this way. And that will take care of it. Now I'll just have to secure the ends. To attach these is actually very, very easy. All we're going to do is put the washer on here. We're going to raise up the belt, and then we'll put the screw in. So the tension on the screw and on that washer is what will hold that in place. And we'll just go ahead and tighten that down. Now that we have the belts in place, it's important to be able to tighten them. But the key to this is you want to make sure that this gantry is actually square to the y-axis. So this x-axis needs to be perfectly square to the y-axis. Then the way I did this, I pushed it all the way to the back until it touched. And that way I can adjust and make sure that these teeth that go into that belt are right there at that point on each side. And then from there, I can go ahead and tighten it and make sure that those teeth fall right into the sprocket where it needs to be when this is shoved all the way back, touching. That way it will be square to the gantry and to the y-axis, the y1 and the y2 axis. And all I'm doing is just pulling tight and then tightening that down. This has been pulled tight and that one's already tight. So now when I pull the gantry forward, it operates smoothly and it's nice and square to the y1 and the y2 axis. Like that, you can see when I pull this all the way back, it touches on this side and it touches on this side as well. So that's perfect and that's perfect. So that's what you want to make sure of, that you get that tight. Now while you're assembling this, you have some little set screws here. Please make sure that you check all over the entire machine that everything has been tightened and checked, because these can come loose in shipping, and if that happens, you're going to get some very bad engraves. So before I do any engraving on the machine, I will go through and check every single screw, set screw, everything all the way through, and make sure that everything is tight and that nothing came loose during the shipping. So please do that and you'll have a much greater success and enjoyment of your laser engraver. So now we're ready to move on to step 5. And you have this little light shielding sleeve, and you have the limit switch in here, and of course you have the screws that you need. Now the limit switch mounts right here, and again you have the 2 holes that are pre-drilled and tapped. So this limit switch can literally be mounted right here. And you have this where you can slide it and adjust it to exactly where you need it. And I'm going to go ahead and have this shoved forward for right now. And if I want to move this back later, I can do that. So the limit switch is installed, and next we're going to install the laser itself. Now to mount the laser on here, we need to actually lower this Z-axis. And I find this a little bit tight to be able to do this as compared to other machines. But if you lower this down to where this plate is actually touching the wasteboard, or touching the workbench in this case, you know, that's about as low as it's going to go. So if you lower it down to this point, then it's going to be fairly easy to put the 3 flathead screws into the back of this plate into the laser. Okay, we have the second one started, and now we'll go to the third one. Okay, the third one was actually real easy to get in, and I'm going to go ahead and tighten all of these now. So we have all 3 screws now tight. Now, the one problem I do see is there is an awful lot of movement on this axis, and I'm going to have to adjust these wheels and get that taken out, because that will affect the engravings. That's a lot of movement. Right down in here, you do have an eccentric nut that you can adjust, and I can get this wrench that comes with the kit and adjust that, and that has eliminated about 90% of the slack. So this is actually doable now. So again, this is the reason that you must check every nut, bolt, everything on this whole entire machine, because things can come loose during shipping. Now it's time to begin to do the wiring. The nice thing about it is the wiring's really all pre-done for you. This wiring harness has everything right where you need it. Now be careful when you take these little ties off. You don't want to cut the wire. So be very, very careful when you clip those. But once you get them cut, there's only 2 of them, then we can stretch this wiring harness out and we're ready to be able to plug it in. Now this one small wire, it is going to be for this limit switch. So we'll go ahead and plug that one in right now, and that will be the first one to get plugged into position. Now when you lay out the wiring harness, the only thing I want to worry about is connecting the 3 wires. And the first one, get the stepper motor plugged in, and then that leaves me 2 wires. One for the laser and one for the limit switch. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and plug in the laser. And now I'm going to move over and plug in the limit switch right here on the back. And that will complete the wiring. Now the only thing that's left is to be able to get this wiring cable up and out of the way. And the easiest way to do that is to use a couple of the provided zip ties and secure it right here on the y-axis. And I want to make sure that this cable is long enough so that z-axis, so that laser can move all the way to the far side of the machine. I went ahead and opened Lightburn, but I do not have a project in it yet. Now when I turn this on, it comes right up to the ready. So it is ready to be able to move. And I can come to this move, and I can go ahead and move it left and right. And you can see that it moves just fine. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and hit the home button, and we'll get this home. And that moves down very quickly, but now we're in the home position, and now I can go ahead and move it to wherever I want it. So I can move it like this. Now I'm moving 1 inch at a time just because that's what I have set in the computer right now. But you can see that it's doing exactly what it needs to do, and it's homed. So I'm just going to type in a very simple word, which is going to be DEWALLIE, and we're going to go ahead and test out the engraving function of this. So I went ahead and typed the word DEWALLIE into this, and I have the origin right here in the center. That's the little green dot. And then I think I'm going to go ahead and make this italics. That looks a little bit more like their logo. Now I mentioned that blue square earlier. Yeah, this is important. That is the gauge to be able to set the Z height. And this plywood is extremely warped. I think what I'm going to do is just go ahead and swap this out for another piece of plywood. Yeah, that looks a lot better. Now it's actually flat. So let's put the little blue square back in, and we'll go ahead and turn the dial and lower this down to where this red shield just touches that blue plate. And there we go. Now we have the Z-axis set, and we'll go ahead now and hit the frame, and we're going to frame this to make sure that the word is going to show up right where we want it to. And I have the little light on so I can see it, and I know it's going to be hard to see in the camera with the shield on, but that looks good. So now that I have the X, Y, and the Z set, I'm just going ahead and engraving this. And it does a very good job. Take a look at the detail. I like that. Now I think what I'm going to do next is just go ahead and hit fill, and we're going to run the same exact program again. Now this time I'm going to go ahead and change the setting down to 70 inches per minute, and we're going to change the power down to 80%. Now this still should give a nice dark burn, and at this point we're going to go ahead and hit engrave and get this going. Now you can see I do have a little bit of overburning there, and that is an indication that I could actually reduce this power even further. But overall it does look good. Now unfortunately I can't put the air assist directly to this one. Thank you for watching today. I really appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed looking at the review of the DEWALLIE laser engraver. Now, people often ask, what is my favorite laser, since I have a variety of different ones? And that's really hard to say, because there's things that I like and dislike about really just about every one of them. Now, some of the things that I really like about the DEWALLIE 20-watt laser is that it was fairly easy to be able to put together. Now, the other thing that I really like is that red shield that has the magnetic attachment. That is very nice, it's very convenient, and that's far better than some of the others that I have had, or in some cases, there was no shield at all. Now, it says that you can actually do the engraving without the glasses. I do not recommend that. Please, wear the glasses, protect your eyes, and always, always ensure that if anybody is in the shop with you, that they're wearing the glasses too. Just because you have that red shield that goes down almost to the surface of the material that you're engraving does not mean that you cannot be exposed to the bad stuff. You don't want to look at that light. So please keep that shield on and keep the glasses on as well. Be safe in your shop. So again, I want to thank everybody for watching today, and I do hope that you learned something and that you can take back and utilize in your shop. So I look forward to seeing each and every one of you in the next video on whatever that may be.